Hey everybody, welcome back to Just Around the Corner. Today I have with me Annelise Gonzalez. She is a physician's assistant at Lowell Urgent Care. Annelise, so great to have you on here and to talk more about what Lowell Urgent Care is doing and what specifically you're doing at that location.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Um, and just to start off, tell us a little bit about how did you get into this field?
Right. So I am a physician assistant working in primary care. So I always felt like I wanted to be a PA. It's a great job. I feel really lucky that I pretty early on was oriented toward this career. And I worked in a primary care clinic before PA school. And then during my graduate education, it just felt like primary care was the right fit for me. Every specialty that I, you know, was in or in the emergency room, I just remember being so like frustrated if there was a patient who had uncontrolled diabetes or who didn't know what medications they were taking. And the specialist was like, oh, well, that's not our job. We're just here for this specific thing. Or the emergency room, they would be like, okay, we've ruled out the emergency. That's our job. We're going to send them away. And so I just felt this pull toward making sure that patients are aware of their health, wanting to be that consistent person who keeps them, you know, like aware of as time goes on, like your health changes. We need to be monitoring these things. And I really appreciate seeing the progress that you can, have more of a long-term relationship with a patient in primary care. And I really love the educational component. Like the first time that we're addressing something, we will dive in. We will talk about the nitty gritty of why this is happening, what this means. And then that really, we can build a trusting relationship. So I really love primary care. Not everyone, there's a lot of specialties out there, but I really feel like this is where I can serve patients the best.
Mm, I love that. And I love that part of what you're speaking to is your heart is to do more than just the bare minimum of your job. Um,
Yeah.
to I guess to put it really bluntly, of
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree.
yeah.
Because
Um,
it's easy to, you know, burnout is very real in medicine and it can be easy to slip into doing the bare minimum. And you really want to love what you do to help, avoid that dangerous rut of doing the bare minimum.
mm, yeah. It sounds like you really genuinely care for your patients and you want them to leave not only having maybe some practical steps moving forward or solutions, whether that's medication or something else, but also giving them a proper understanding of what caused the problem and how they can establish habits that will just promote their health overall, which is so powerful.
Yeah, I think sometimes a challenge is even if they don't need any medicine from me, or even if we don't know what the problem is, like we're still looking for the answer. I do want to still kind of go through what we do know, what we've ruled out, and help them feel like we're still, like they're still being cared for, even if they don't walk away with a medicine or if we don't have a specific diagnosis. I think they can still walk away feeling like we accomplished something.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And that's often a reality is that you might not get an
Mm-hmm.
answer right then and there, but um, you're going to make sure that that patient is heard, understood, and you're going to explore the options and be curious about what's going on. And
Mhm.
Feels really like, as a human who obviously gets sick and goes and sees, a doctor every now and then, or whatever, it's like that is so meaningful to see a physician and really feel listened to, that they're curious about what's going on, and they're going to be proactive and taking those next steps of, it's more than just that maybe 15 minutes that you were in there.
Mhm.
So that's amazing. And curious too, how did you end up at Lowell Urgent Care?
I'm very happy to be in this position I'm in. So I was working at a primary care clinic for about 2.5 years, and I had made some connections. And Lowell Urgent Care opened on June 1st. We're a pretty new clinic. So the owner and the people that were planning this clinic recruited me specifically because we already had those professional connections, and they felt that I could be a good member of the team, like really getting this up and going.
Mm.
So there was more than just seeing patients. I have been really excited to have more of a leadership role. I'm the manager and the administrator for the time being. And
Wow.
so it so happens that I was looking for a job when they came and spoke to me about this opportunity. So it seemed like the timing was perfect, and this door opened for me at just the right time. So I feel like, you know, that was all kind of happening for a reason. And so we've been open for about 3 months, and it's going really well. Um, we, something I would like to mention, just so your listeners know, so we are a cash pay clinic or a self pay clinic. We don't bill to insurance. That was not my choice, but I have seen that that is, sometimes that really works for some patients if they have a really high deductible, or if they don't have insurance. We have really transparent pricing. Um, you are never going to get a bill from us. We'll just tell you what exactly to expect. So unfortunately, sometimes a patient comes in and they have great insurance, and I want to be able to help them, but I'm also going to let them know, hey, here's our prices. But other than that, I think everything about it has been a great fit.
Mm. Yeah, and I think what you're saying is important of, whether a clinic takes insurance or not, there are always going to be barriers to payment and pricing. But you guys are trying to be very transparent. And with all that and what that looks like, as well as opening up doors for people who, even if they did have insurance, that probably wouldn't make much of a difference, to
Mm-hmm.
the cost, which is unfortunately a reality, for a lot of people. But that's amazing, and so it's opening doors for people who need that, who don't have insurance as well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so you guys mentioned that you're pretty new. So just tell us a little bit about like what you guys do, the people that you serve, and who might be a good fit for someone who's needing your services.
Yeah, so we do a little bit of everything. Even though our name says urgent care, I consider us more of a primary care. But we do some specialized things. We're just about to start doing immigration physicals, and I'm certified to do a few other specific physicals like disability and DOT for truck drivers. So there are some specific things we've really taken the time to, offer specific services. And many of my patients are Spanish speaking, and I am bilingual in Spanish. And it's really wonderful to, be able to provide that education and have those conversations in Spanish with someone who so often has to use an interpreter.
Mm.
Um, and so I think we really serve the Spanish speaking community, especially if they happen to be self-pay or don't have insurance. Um, and I'm really thankful to be able to, you know, have practiced my Spanish enough to be at this point that I can communicate with patients like that.
Mm.
And then we offer weight loss injections. Dr. Howard specifically has some services like medical marijuana cards. We do a little bit of everything. And for me, I think the most valuable thing is that I would say 80% of my patients are Spanish speaking.
Mm. Yeah, that's really awesome that when you're able to provide that service, provide Spanish services for those who that's their first language or the only language that they can really communicate in, and that is such a need. Is um, America is kind of behind on being able to be
Mhm.
multilingual and providing services to a variety of people who speak different languages. And the expectation is that you're going to know English. And that can be a huge barrier to someone getting the care that they need and seeking that out, and actually getting an appropriate diagnosis or treatment because there might be a language barrier. And so that's really awesome that you're able to provide that at the clinic you're working at, but also just opening that up for the community too. That's just a continuing need.
Mhm.
And with like the Spanish speaking element, did you just like, was that already a language that you were speaking, or was that something that you decided, hey, I can see this need, I really want to step in and fill this gap?
Right. Uh, I'm not Hispanic or Latina. Um, my ancestry is German, very European. My husband is from Texas, and that's the only reason that my last name is Gonzalez. But I really feel like that worked out too. It gives me a little bit of credibility almost. So I majored in Spanish in college. I reached a point where I was almost able to really converse in Spanish, and I felt like, I'm either gonna be able to use this or not.
Mm,
And I felt motivated to keep studying Spanish. The most helpful thing at first was I started reading in Spanish to try to get just as much vocabulary as possible. And then from the moment I started working in this, primary care world, I was able to practice almost every single day.
mm,
And then the more time that went on, the better I became, the more Spanish speaking patients would request me because they were noticing I was making an effort at least. And so now over the, span of several years, I'm at the point where I rarely ever use a translator. I would not hesitate if I felt like I was misunderstanding someone, but I consider myself fluent in Spanish. There's always more growth to have for sure, but that has been a process. And it really goes to show, how incredible it is that so many people are kind of almost forced to take that on, to
mm,
take on a second or third language. They may not have much of a choice, and I had a choice to spend time, practicing that. So I gained a lot of respect for, for my own patients or for people that like, take that on, um, because I really like the way that you phrased that. America's kind of behind in being multilingual. We would kind of take it for granted that, we can go almost anywhere and can rely on English, and it's not true for so many people.
mm, mhm. Yeah, it's an area of privilege for sure to be able to
Yeah. Hmm.
English. And I think it's also really cool too that you took the time to learn Spanish and use it in your workplace. And I think that that can just be an encouragement to other professionals, no matter what field they're in, of, hey, like, you can address this need. Like it takes practice, it takes time. But even just the patients who saw that you were trying to speak Spanish, even if it wasn't perfect, really saw that and appreciated that. And I think that's just so important. And, I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I've had clients who their main language is Spanish. And there have been moments where I've told them, like, hey, this is about you and your process. And so, if the best way for you to get what you need is to speak in Spanish, then even if I don't understand everything, I want to try. And I want to just at
Mm-hmm.
least give you the opportunity to not have to like conform to my standard as a white woman whose primary language is English. And so I think that being a professional who can provide those options for patients is super important and is a need for sure, especially in Northwest Arkansas. There is a significant Hispanic and Marshallese populations,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to access those populations and being multilingual is important. And so I love that, like, you have made that a priority in your work and in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me wish that I could speak Marshallese because there are other languages besides Spanish. Um, and then it's always, you know, could really go into a rabbit hole with this, but like when children are translating for their parents, that can be sometimes can be kind of stressful. I mean, like I'm so used to speaking in medical language, it's easy for me to forget too, like not everybody is used to using these words, and it can be overwhelming for that language barrier to be there. So that's a huge topic in healthcare for sure.
Yeah, and I think what you're bringing up there too of the medical language, the
Mm-hmm.
clinical language, like that is also something that can be a barrier is when, especially in different cultures, going to the doctor or going to see a therapist or whatever it is can be really discouraged. It might not be something that is um, common. It might be bring shame. There might be a lot of different aspects that contribute to whether or not somebody might seek health care, as well as their understanding and kind of openness and knowledge of what all of that looks like and means for them. And so being able to speak very colloquially and plainly is I think important too,
Mm-hmm.
that we can make it accessible to all different people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So when somebody wants to come to Lowell Urgent Care, well, maybe I should rephrase that. I don't know if anybody wants to go.
Right. Yeah. When somebody needs healthcare.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. When somebody needs to go to Lowell Urgent Care, what would be the process of getting in to see a specialist or a physician there?
We we have a pretty open schedule, especially since we're so new. Um, I'm here 40 hours a week. Patients can walk in almost always. We're open from 9 to 6 on weekdays and 9 to 1 on Saturday. Some things that are a little more specific, like for Dr. Howard, he's here twice a week, or for an immigration physical, for example, it would be helpful to have an appointment scheduled, but we almost always would be able to see you pretty quickly if you walk in. And we're located in Lowell behind the Sonic on Bloomington. So we're at 114 Harrison. We, I guess this is a good time to mention our website is lowellcare.com. And so you can kind of easily find our phone number, give us a call. So I find it helpful that we're open on Saturday, even for just those few hours, because that
Yeah.
does help some people that really couldn't squeeze in during the weekday. But Yeah, we are kind of becoming more kind of more steady with our patient intake as we're growing. It's really exciting. And so it would be really cool if we get somebody who comes in and says, "Oh yeah, I heard about you guys on the podcast." That would be super fun.
Oh my gosh, yes, I would love that. That would be awesome. Um, and that's great that you guys have the space at this point where people can just walk in.
Hmm.
And I know sometimes there can be a wait list of 3 months or more. And like, well, I really want to address this need now. And so that's great that you guys have that availability and flexibility there, and that you're providing services, even if it's not full day on Saturday. It can be hard for people to pull away during working hours to come to the doctor. And so
Hmm.
that's really great. And um, so can people schedule like appointments online on the website? What does all of that kind of look like, and what should people expect?
So for now, we're scheduling appointments over the phone because we wouldn't want like someone to schedule a very specific appointment and then show up and it to actually be, like something we couldn't do that day.
Mm,
Like for example, we don't draw blood on Saturdays. So we wouldn't always want to try to schedule, a wellness visit if somebody needs blood work on a Saturday. So we're kind of wanting to make sure that we're making sure the appointment is appropriate. And so we are mostly just doing that over the phone.
mm,
But we have some social media. We have Instagram and Facebook. Our website has a link to our email. So if somebody reaches out to us like with a message that way, then we can communicate that way as well.
great, great. Yeah. So there's multiple ways, and it sounds like your team is wanting to be very intentional about making sure that whatever the need is that needs to be addressed at that appointment, that it's something that can actually be addressed, and that somebody doesn't come in just to be sent away frustrated of, oh, well, I needed this done, but actually that's not something that would be possible at this time, which I'm sure still happens and is part of life. But sounds like you all are doing everything that you can to make sure that when somebody comes in for their appointment, everybody's on the same page about what to
Hmm.
expect, and what can realistically be addressed at that time.
Yeah. So like as a PA, I can't sign off on your medical marijuana card. So I wouldn't want someone to show up and then be disappointed about that. So it seems best to have, have a human kind of proofread and check that everything's, scheduled appropriately. But yeah, it's been manageable for now. We're a pretty small team at the moment, but everybody who's here, it's really special. Like everyone who's a part of the team was either handpicked or like we've known each other for a while.
Mm.
So there's this really great trust. And that has been really just, I'm really appreciative to be in this work environment where there's respect and trust among all of us. And I feel like our patients can feel that too. We're all just happy to be here.
Yeah, and that's not something that I feel like we think about or talk about a lot, but it's just felt, is when you go to
Mhm.
a provider and there is a sense of just like, I'm glad to be here. We all get along, like that there's a good working environment, like that really does change the feeling of being in that appointment, and can be the reason why somebody comes back, is because they know that, okay, like that nurse smiled at me, or I heard the physician and the administrative people making jokes, and that was just really pleasant to be in an
Mhm.
environment that was positive and encouraging.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, well, curious, like, are there other things that are going on in your sphere that people can get connected to? or just things that you would really like to inform the audience of?
So we are mostly kind of working on growing our practice a little bit. I have been talking a little bit more with some universities. I was talking with NWAC, University of Arkansas, and kind of trying to have more students around. I really love kind of opening the door for pre-med students, pre-PA, because I was in their shoes as well. So we are excited to collaborate more with the community. There's a Hispanic Heritage Festival every year. I'm really excited to hopefully have a booth there and kind of just be there to do some blood pressure screenings and, kind of be a kind of a little consult booth. And then making sure that university and NWAC students know that they're welcome and we want to be a place of learning. And hopefully, as we grow and we kind of get more and more connected to the community, maybe there'll be more things on that list. But yeah, and then listening to your podcast too, like learning about the resources in Northwest Arkansas, specialists, even like, heart, learning more about like community resources that we have. That's, more important than ever because I am, you know, I'm kind of in this leadership role in our clinic and you know, I want to know what resources are out there to pass that on to our patients.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Um, it really is like my hope for this podcast isn't just for people who are needing these services, but also for providers and allow
Mm-hmm.
us to get to know one another. And because it is like it's so imperative that we know each other, that we build relationships so that we can have very credible and established referral sources so that when we do refer or recommend a client to a different resource, we can really say like, yes, I know Annelise and I know the type of services she provides and the type of care and intentionality that you can expect from her and that she would be a great person for you to see for this issue and vice versa. And so one, I just love that you've been listening to the podcast and that that's been helpful. Um, but also hoping too that on this episode, whether it's somebody who's looking for um, care as a patient, somebody who is in school and is wanting opportunities to connect, to learn, and potentially have more collaborative experiences with you all, that those are possible and to reach out and yeah, so we can have better experiences and reach our goals. um Something that
Mm-hmm.
I've really been learning that's also kind of inspired the podcast is, a lot of times it's about who we know, and we don't know who we need to know until we know that they're there. And so
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like Northwest Arkansas is like, bigger than you realize. And there's so many people that want, like, we kind of all have this goal in mind you know, to help clients, help patients, help the community. And the more that we can connect with each other, the bigger this network is. And it's really valuable.
yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much, Annalise. It's been really great getting to hear more about what you're doing and how we can get connected to the services that Lowell Urgent Care is providing. And it's great to know that there's a lot of different opportunities available for people in a broad range of needs. And so, yeah, I'm excited for just getting to share this with the community as well as the connections that will hopefully spur from just getting to know you and you getting to know more people in the area too.
Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for, what you do with your practice as well with abundance counseling. I'm so thankful to know you.
Yeah, thanks so much. That's sweet. Well, Thank you, Annalise, and we'll see you soon.